President Trump was after his China visit, he had an interview with Sean Hannity, and this is what he said regarding his meeting with President Xi. He said we talked about a lot of things. We had a very good meeting. We want things from them, meaning the Islamic Republic. One thing he agreed to today. Oh no, that's not the Iran part. Let me actually bring the Iran part, right? The Okay, so here, President Trump reveals to Sean Hannity that the Chinese President Xi Jinping has committed to withholding military equipment from Iran following their high-level discussions. That's what President Trump said. Obviously, I don't trust the CCP. Neither do anyone here, I'm assuming. So, is President Trump's exact words were, let me actually listen. Do you guys want me to share his exact words? Maybe I should share his exact words. Let me here. Let me actually just. I don't know how to do this while sharing it with both school and YouTube at the same time. Let me try this. Share entire screen, share audio, and I'll go do it like this. I think that will work. Add to screen. So I'll share now. I share with school so that everybody hears this. This is the most important part where I want to hear your opinions about. Okay, so let me play it now. Hopefully everybody could hear it.
The issue, and you've been asked about it and you've spoken about it, and that is China's support of Iran. How big a discussion was that today?
We discussed it. I mean, when you say support, they're not fighting a war with us or anything.
No.
He said he's not going to give military equipment. That's a big statement. He said that today. That's a big statement. He said that strongly. But at the same time, he said, they buy a lot of their oil there, and they'd like to keep doing that. He'd like to see Hormuz Strait opened. I said, well, we didn't stop it. They did it, and then we stopped them. Sort of interesting. He joked. He said, it's sort of, if they stopped it, then you stopped them. But they'd like to see it opened. But they actually closed it. He didn't like the fact that they're charging tolls. I don't know if they are or not. I don't know who would pay them. I mean, where do they put the money? The country's decimated. They're charging tolls. Where's the money going?
So let me go back to sharing the tab instead, so that we don't have all that mess when I'm sharing school. All right, so I do want to hear your opinions about what he said. There's two other things. President Xi mentioned to President Trump is that they also agree that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, and the Strait of Hormuz must remain fully open. So they announced that the White House also posted this as an achievement, that the Chinese are also saying that Iran should never have a nuclear weapon and that the Strait of Hormuz should be open. So, U.S. President Donald Trump said Chinese President Xi Jinping would like to see a deal made with Iran and offered to help. In an interview with Fox News host Sean Hannity, he said, this President Trump's exact quotes here: "Look, anybody that buys that much oil has obviously got some kind of relationship with him," meaning the relationship between the Islamic Republic and China. And then he said, but he said, I would love to be a help if I could be any help whatsoever. So President Trump was saying that Xi Jinping was suggesting that he would love to be a help, come up with a deal between the United States and the Islamic Republic. President Trump was talking in a way that was celebrating I'm not going to show you every clip, but President Trump was talking as if he was celebrating the fact that the Chinese are willing to help come up with a deal between the Islamic Republic and United States. So I have a lot more updates, but this, I know already what some of you are going to say about this. But before we go to other updates, I'll put a one to talk about my other updates because I want you guys to be speaking more than I am right now. So I'll let you guys respond to what we just said. Are there twos in the chat already to talk about this?
There are. First to respond is
Noah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, they're saying like, oh yeah, we don't want to have war. Physical war, yes, I agree, but cyber warfare, I believe we're already in cyber warfare with them. And in fact, we've been in cyber warfare there with China for decades. It's not said publicly, but it's well known. We're also in a tariff war and trade war, all that stuff. But physical war, no, it would be devastating for both sides. As for what the CCP said about like saying like, oh yeah, we're about what they said about Iran, I don't trust anything the CCP says. The CCP's word is their paper. The word of the CCP is as strong as toilet paper, meaning it's worthless. So yeah, but yeah, that's my thing.
All right, who's next?
Next, we have Dom.
So, my opinion on China is actually they're going to go hard on Russia. It's just like Sun Tzu, not tactic, but strategy book. If you want to attack from the north, get all your power in the south and talk about the south, do everything about south, and then nobody will be expecting you going to the north. The second thing is that basically all the mm, part of the central Russia that is above China is actually cities that are with Chinese citizens. The cities have all the road signs, all the like infrastructure basically have Chinese
All right.
road signs and stuff, and everyone who works there at some like a normal job or a factory or so are Chinese people that just
Huh.
came there and started the so-called civilian occupation. So
Okay.
basically, yeah.
No, I do. So going forward, guys, I do want to hear the opinions about the statements that I actually showed you guys and I read to you guys, because that's the main part of the discussion. That's the main, that was what I was focusing on regarding the Iran situation, regarding the Strait of Hormuz, regarding the President Trump talking about China agreeing not to give any weapons to the Islamic Republic. Obviously, we know that the CCP cannot be trusted regarding that. How going forward, what do you guys see? What is the Chinese people? What is the CCP going to do with regards to Iran? Like on a from civilizational change in the tension between United States and China, how important this Iran situation is right now. What is the best strategy for CCP? If you were the CCP, what would you be doing against United States to make sure you have the upper hand? What would the United States would be doing? What would you be advising President Trump if you had his ear? So let's actually try to focus a little bit more on that, because that's the main thing that everybody is trying to figure out with regards to what the with this is. There are many different topics when it comes to China right now. Even with this meeting that President Trump had in with Xi Jinping, there's not just Iran. Obviously, it's Taiwan, it's AI, it's rare earth minerals, it's energy as a whole, not just the energy that is coming from the Strait of Hormuz. I know that we could go in so many different directions, but if we could keep it focused on for this segment, and we could talk about the other things at other segments. So those were the things that I showed. So let's go to the next person. And guys, if you could keep it focused on this, that would be great.
Next, we have Sketch.
Wanted to point out something very specific about the way that Trump spoke. He didn't say, I believe. He said, she said. She said this. She said this. She said this. At no point did Trump say, I believe him. She says he's not going to send more weapons. She says they can't have a nuclear weapon. She says he's not saying, I believe. He's saying, this is what he told me. So I want to point out the difference between he told me and I believe, because sometimes Trump does is he says what other people say. It may be exactly what he believes. It may be the exact opposite of what he believes. But people don't understand the technicality that he uses when he speaks. People think he's crazy, but if you listen to him closely, he's very careful about about talking about the difference between what I believe, this kind of nuance in the way he talks is something people should notice, because a lot of people that call him crazy don't go into the semantic differences and the linguistic dexterity that he sometimes display, even when he's kidding. So that's very, if you go back and look at it later, not right now, notice the way he speaks. She said, he said this, he said that. He's not saying I believe. I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, before we go to the next person, we got a super chat by Roman Cabbage saying deal is China could place trackers on weapons, and saying also hi BT. Oh, you're getting a hi from the YouTube side. And thank you for the super chat. I don't know what you mean by China could place trackers on weapons. Yeah, I mean, I do know that many of the weapon systems that China creates, many people say cannot be trusted because every technology that comes from China, people have to assume that it comes with some sort of a tracking. And even if you buy phones from them, just understand that your entire privacy is gone, and the CCP knows your entire business and everything about your life right now, and they use that for sure. So I'm assuming it's the same thing with their weapons as well. And thank you for the super chats. Okay, so who's next?
Next to respond, we have Jose.
Hello, guys. I'm Armin. I just want to remind you what I told the chat when we were talking about China earlier in the week, that Xi might be trying to find a way to save face, because that's very important in the Chinese culture. Xi said this, Xi said that. A lot of stuff sounded like he was caving to our side. He might be playing Trump. Trump might not be believing him, but it is an attempt to save face. First of all, he has to get his economy rolling again, so he needs that oil rolling again. Okay. Second of all, I doubt they were the only two people in the room. I bet you there were some other high-powered people in the room. Okay. So, yes, I don't believe him, but I'll tell you the truth. I believe a Chinese communist before I believe any Islamist. Okay. And I'm Cuban and saying that. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I don't know between communist and Muslim leaders or Islamic activists. I don't know which one is worse. I think like sometimes I feel like communism is worse than Islam, and I've been fighting Islam like half of my life, more than half of my life. So that's saying a lot coming from somebody who's so much anti-Islam. I think communism is worse than it. By the way, guys, in the chat, in the YouTube chat, in the chat, I know this is not the topic of our discussion, so just put it in the chat. I think communism is worse than Islam, and I hate Islam. So let me know if you agree with me on that. And BT gave us a super chat saying that's what G said. Love that. Thank you, BT. Okay. All right. That's good. That's good. All right. Who's next?
I had to. Okay,
Yeah.
next we have Jeffrey.
As always, pretty good points. What I drew from the commentary that was shared, like three buckets. I mean, as far as the Mueller regime can never have nuclear weapons, it very much sounds like diplomatic language or straight up deception. I mean, it's true that President Trump and Xi publicly agreed the Mueller regime or the regime remnants can never have nuclear weapons, matching kind of like weak Chinese Communist Party official standing or opposition to the weaponization while accepting Tehran's claims of a nuclear, like a peaceful program. The problem with that is it very much smells like hedging, because the Chinese Communist Party has a documented history of nuclear missile proliferation through proxies. In the case of, say, helping Pakistan, whose AQ-Khan network funneled enrichment tech centrifuges and bomb designs to the Mullah regime in the 80s and 90s, plus limited direct assistance in the past. I mean, even right now, the Chinese Communist Party keeps plausible deniability via third parties, North Korea ties, oil revenue that indirectly funds Iran. As far as like the strait needs to remain open, it's probably almost a surely response to President Trump's pressure and blockade. I mean, like, so he's like, the Strait of Hormuz must stay open and not be militarized. Yeah, of course, because it's in direct response to us shutting down, doing a double blockade. the Chinese Communist Party is the world's largest oil importer. It needs to stay flowing freely to avoid billions in losses, particularly when it comes to teapot industries that use the heavy crude that disproportionately the Mullah regime feeds to the Chinese Communist Party. While it's clear that President Trump is pressing Beijing to use its leverage over the Mullah regime remnants, this stance also perfectly aligns with the Chinese Communist Party attempting to leverage that and and advantages regarding protecting its own economy and brick stakes. So what do I think? Where does it kind of like shake out? It's very much my read is that Xi is actively treating the Mullah regime remnants as a flexible bargaining chip to try and gain advantage in his dealings with President Trump over key issues. And he thinks by controlling, well, he doesn't control the flow of oil purchases. I mean, as far as dual purpose tech and diplomatic cover, he can dial up the regime remnants cooperation up or down as like in other words, he's trying to use it as a temporary version of what the Chi-Coms have used North Korea as. Either way, even if Xi actually agreed that the Mullah regime should not have nuclear weapons, the current operational environment is so positively selects for proliferation independent of the Chinese Communist Party that when it's married with the Mullah regime's remnants in inelasticity regarding pursuit of that capability, it still translates into the fact the Mullah regime has to die. That's just off the top of my head. Sorry, guys.
Yep. Okay. Okay. So I'm next, right? BT. And also, do we have ones in the chat, or do we have no ones in the chat so far? Because okay, yes, we do. Fantastic. Okay. So here's the way I look at this. So we have three statements regarding Iran that everybody's talking about coming from Xi Jinping. One is he said that he's not going to give any weapons to the Islamic Republic. I don't believe that for a second. Then there's two other statements. They're saying that they don't want the Islamic Republic to have nuclear weapons, and they want the Strait of Hormuz to be open. I do believe those two, but it's irrelevant because they don't have a say anyways, right? So I do believe that the CCP doesn't want the Islamic Republic to be nuclear because the CCP likes the Islamic Republic to be a tool. They like the Islamic Republic it's a leverage for them. They don't see the Islamic Republic as an ally. They see the Islamic Republic as a weak state that they could throw around like a bitch. It's their bitch, basically, right? The Islamic Republic likes to look at the CCP as an ally, but the CCP looks at the Islamic Republic as their little bitch that they use against the West and the United States and the West as a whole. And they do not like the Islamic Republic to become too powerful for them to basically make decisions on themselves. They would like to have them on a leash. If the Islamic Republic becomes nuclear, they wouldn't need the CCP as much as they need right now. And that's not something at all that the CCP wants, right? Also, the CCP does want, yeah, exactly, a tool sketch. Also, the CCP does want the Strait of Hormuz to open. They're frustrated with the Islamic Republic right now, not just because that's where they get their oil from, like at least more than 10% of it, right? So it's not like them wanting the Strait of Hormuz open doesn't mean that they are on America's side and against the Islamic Republic. They're definitely more on the Islamic Republic side, versus the Americans for sure. But they don't like they find it annoying that the Strait of Hormuz is closed like this because not actually way more than 10% because we're not even talking about just the oil from Iran. We're talking about the oil from Saudi Arabia, the gas from Qatar, Iraq, Kuwait, all of that is closed. And China does not at all like the situation. This is putting a lot of pressure on them. But on the 2 points that I believe them, on the point that they're saying they're not going to give weapons to the Islamic Republic, wouldn't believe them for a second. On the 2 points that I believe them, I don't believe them because I trust them. I believe them because I understand their incentives, and it doesn't even matter that they're because it's not up to the CCP for the Islamic Republic to be nuclear. The Islamic Republic could want the the CCP could want that the Islamic Republic not become nuclear all as much as they want. Who gives a shit? The if you don't topple the Islamic Republic is going to get nuclear weapons whether the CCP wants that or not. So them wishing that is irrelevant. And them wanting the Strait of Hormuz to be open is irrelevant as well, because they're not going to put enough pressure on the Islamic Republic to open the Strait of Hormuz. The closing of the Strait of Hormuz is the only leverage that the Islamic Republic has right now. So they're going to close it regardless of how much that pisses off the Chinese. And the only countries could actually open the Strait of Hormuz are United States and Israel. So the Chinese being annoyed with that is irrelevant as well. They're not going to do anything about it. So they're only so who cares? Who cares that they are the part that they're lying from the three statements, giving weapons to the Islamic Republic, not wanting to Iran to have nuclear weapons, wanting the Strait of Hormuz to be open. The only two parts that we could believe them are the two parts that they're irrelevant. The part that they're lying about is the part that they're actually very relevant, and they're going to make the Islamic Republic, along with the Russians, are basically giving drone components to the Islamic Republic through the Caspian Sea, and the Chinese are giving the missile components to the Islamic Republic through land routes. And on that front, they're being very, very destructive. And I think the Americans should be a lot more aggressive against the CCP for this. I think they should be called out. And I think we should be seeing trucks being blown up. I think we should see Americans blowing up trucks, any trucks. I think we need a lot more intelligence operations regarding which trucks are carrying out these missile components and just blowing them up. Yeah, I think we need more aggression against the CCP on this, because this is like, with just a little bit of investment from the Chinese in supporting the Islamic Republic with missiles, the cost to the Americans is so much more than the small amount of money that the CCP has to, just with a little bit of missile components. It could increase the cost to the Americans when it comes to defense, and the lives of American soldiers is a lot higher. And I think that we need a lot more aggression towards the CCP, given that they are supporting the main enemy of the United States right now. That needs a stronger responding to, in my opinion. All right. So, who do we have next? And
Yeah, up next we have Didom, and his topic is if world production depots spread. Oh, before that, we have Sketch to respond to the topic at hand.
I agree with you on these strikes, but I would wait till after the meeting, because one of the things that we took like, how many C-130s did we take over there in equipment? It was so much equipment. We took so much equipment over there. We took limousines. We took so much equipment over there. So I would imagine that these people in the CCP, they can't touch our equipment. And I would imagine that we are spying on everything that they're doing right now. And we might be looking at what signals are coming out of China, specifically Beijing, and where it's going. I would imagine having the president there is having a whole spy network land on your country. So I wouldn't doubt that they're going to smile a lot and shake a lot of hands. And when they leave, everything they learn, any assets that they had going in, the CIA just had a large campaign of people that they were trying to get to defect, right? And that they were trying to, like, signal to and get signals from. And this has been going on for the past, I believe it's 3 months. They're ramping up. The CIA is ramping up on defectors, especially in light of all these purges. I mean, they're all dirty. It's like it's the same thing in any communist nation. They're all dirty. They're all got their fingers in the pot. When you get purged, it's not because you were dirty, it's because you weren't loyal enough, or you're a danger, or you're getting too popular. So what I would imagine is that a lot of people that are scared would send signals, would receive signals. I believe this is a giant intel operation, right? It's not the only purpose or the main purpose, but I believe that's part of it. And I would imagine that they're going to find out a lot, but they're not going to start striking trucks right now. They're going to wait till he leaves. But I believe you're absolutely right about dual use materials flowing in, about Caspian Sea stuff flowing in, and about the rocket fuel, rocket parts, all that stuff. I believe you're completely right on being incensed, enraged, that more isn't being done. I believe they have to get through this thing and then move on.
Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think that American policy is not aggressive against the CCP enough. Okay. That's what I think. And I know a lot of people say, like, no, you don't understand. They're doing this, this is mind games. They're gonna do this, they're gonna do that, something will happen. I I don't know, this is 5D chess, 4D chess, 12D chess.
And
I don't yeah.
I can't agree more. I cannot agree more. To be more in line with you, I would have to jump in your skin. I hate how soft we are on them, and I believe you're completely right about that.
Okay. Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Okay. That was a very visual description of how much you're on my side. I appreciate that. Oh, I see we have two. We have more twos in the chat.
We do. No, I don't think anyone has agreed with me ever that much in my life. And I've had a human in my, and he does not agree with me hardly ever. Next to respond, we have Rebecca.
All doing. It's a very interesting discussion. Hey, what's up? Just for you to understand the complexity of it, I want to add in some factors. Because first of all, you need to also include the fact that the China is making some of its decisions, and in general, a lot of our adversaries do, make some certain decisions, assuming that they will be the losing side. Meaning they assume that if the United States wants something, they would get it, and therefore they can take out some of the power that the Americans have by making them use more equipment, and at the same time not really actually risking that Iran would have nuclear weapons. So you need to understand, like, for them, it's like, okay, we give them their basic assumption is America will win. So it's very important that we understand that our adversaries don't necessarily think that they're going to be the winner side, and actually everything that they are doing assumes that it is the other side that would win. The other thing that I want to add when it comes to China, especially historically speaking, right? The US and the world depends on China. China does manufacture some stuff that nowhere else is done. And China has a history of collapsing in a brutal way that kills hundreds of millions when they have chaos. One of the reasons why they have such a tendency to have an hierarchical system that is just as brutal as it takes a population. You need to understand, like, in the end of the day, a lot of those governments, a lot of those systems reflect a certain geographical reality or a population. Now, if you have oil or some things that allow you to bypass the structure of the population, then you have some cheat codes. But a lot of times, Russia, China, those are the structure of the country kind of reflects the way people think. And the reason people think this way when it comes to Russia, right? They have paranoid style in thinking ingrained in them because of their geography, and China has a collapse paranoia thinking ingrained in their thinking because of their geography again, and because of that, right? So from the American side, you need to understand. You say, "Oh, we need to be stronger, China, stronger, China." You are also assuming that China might be stronger than what it really is, especially since China has such a clear history that when it collapses, it happens really fast and hundreds of millions die. And then we have some things that only China is doing. I just want to say that things are a bit more complex, and you can still count on the Chinese that they understand, and they're having their own mentality, the assumption that you're going to win. So it's a bit more complicated. Another thing is that is something that America and China kind of share. They both want to feel independent when they cannot be. So America, with its isolationist mindset, you can see it a lot in politics, they want to feel that they are not dependent on other countries. China has the same mindset. And therefore, they try to, in every way, shape, or form, to take away whatever dependency they have on the US. And America is doing the same, right? And in general, like the Americans have a very similar mindset. It's a mindset of in a huge island mindset, I would say, like both America, like China and US, which are empires about the same size, like really are, like there are some similarities in that mindset, but both powers sitting together are kind of understanding that maybe it's not going to happen because China always was a bottleneck when it comes to resources globally, always. And the United States is the United States. So it will always win. So, it's a game. It's a game. And Iran is definitely like a very strong card in that power struggle. But I also understand like that there isn't a real want for the other side to actually like fall, because it's both have too much to lose. And the Chinese I've known, right, have more self-preservation instinct than the Russians do. That's my thoughts. Now, it's not my expertise. I'm not gonna say it is, but just in general, something to
Very
consider.
interesting. Very interesting. Thank you for that, Rebecca. That's very interesting.
Of course.
Up next, we have Kat.
Kat? Kat Miowski?
I was like daydreaming.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry. I wasn't paying attention. Was that cat? Okay. I don't remember exactly the specific date, but I know that the U.S. has been too trusting of China before. We did this mistake. I'm saying we as if I'm an American, but you guys did this before, and maybe someone can tell me exactly when it was, but it happened before, and it led to rise of actually the Communist Party in some sense. So, yeah, I totally agree.
Okay. Is it my turn? Because the stuff that you said just gave me is something that I wanted to share with you guys, right? I think it's my turn.
It is. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, it's my turn. All right, so guys, what Rebecca said and what the rest of you guys said just made me want to mention this. This is something that I repeat, and I wanted to make sure this is recorded here as well with you guys. The United States will win the Cold War because of the inherent nature of how the U.S. politics and economy works compared to Russia and China, right? The decentralization, the entrepreneurial spirit, and the limited government, and the amount of competition in the private sector. That means that no matter what the Chinese do, and no matter what the Russians do, at one way or another, America will come on top, and the CCP is going to lose, and Putin is going to lose. I'm not saying this is going to be easy. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be fighting. They could do a lot of damage, and we need to reduce the damage. But one way or another, the right side is going to win this, right? When it comes to, like, for example, even in military, when it comes to weapon manufacturing and the military industry in the United States, the reliance on private sectors and the competitions between them, the fact that you don't have a top-down command economy where there are certain elites that are making decisions and everything in America is done through competition between different sections. You have a level of decentralization in the markets. You have a level of decentralization in politics as well. You have separations of power. Whatever the Chinese decide to do will not be able to compete with the wisdom of the crowds that you have in the United States. Because in the United States, decisions are not being made by one person. It's been made by so many different people with so many different plans and ideas and methods competing against each other. And it is that Darwinian model that produces the best strategies. There is no way that no elite anywhere, forget about the Chinese or Russians, there's no elite anywhere could compete with that model as long as you have a centralized command economy and a centralized command structure where there's certain people who think that they're wise enough to defeat the wisdom of the crowd. That has never happened, and it will not happen here again, right? And again, I see Samantha crying over this in the chat, but this is empirically that we have seen empirically. This has always been the case. Whenever you give people liberty, like you do in the United States, those are societies who prosper because with liberty you have competition. With competition you have a Darwinian model. With the Darwinian model, you have an emergent property of the wisdom of the crowd that produces the best results. That's the secret behind why United States has been successful. And until China becomes free, and until Russia becomes free, and you have actually true classical liberal values in those countries, you're not these people will never be able to even get close to producing the results that United States has. And I don't see these people letting go of their grip over society because they're not because the CCP is not interested in China flourishing. The CCP is interested in CCP flourishing. Okay, Putin is not interested in Russia's growth. Putin is interested in his own power. And to give up power for the sake of liberty of your people so that they could flourish means that you have to choose your people before you choose yourself, and neither the CCP or Putin will ever do that. This is why United States will always win this race, right? So with that in mind, we have to understand that we're entering into a new era. The world order is going to change. We already so before the phase that we were in the phase of the Cold War. We had the Soviet Union on one side, and we had United States on the other side. And now, after the fall of the Soviet Union, in this transition period that we were already in, we had United States policing the world very effectively, and the main problems coming from Islamic countries for a while. But now we're going to a previous model that we had, like when the United States on one side and the Soviet Union on one side. We're going back to that, but this time we're going to have the CCP replacing the Soviet Union. We're going to enter that world. So we're going to be entering this Cold War kind of situation that we have with the Soviet Union, and we need to win this race. And exactly at the same time, so this is a new big chapter in history, and we are basically at the beginning phases of it. And while this is happening politically, we are also at the same time entering, like we're already in the beginning stages of the fourth industrial revolution of AI and robotics. So this Cold War is going to be won by whoever wins the industrial revolution, whoever has the upper hand with AI and robotics. And both sides completely know this. And this is why this Cold War that we're in, AI and robotics are always at the center of the discussions, because the competition between United States and China is about that, because both sides know whoever wins the AI race wins every single other race, right? And so when it comes to the AI race, we're talking chips, because we're talking chips, we're talking rare earth minerals, we're talking knowledge, and more important than anything, we're talking energy. It doesn't matter if you have the best models, if you don't have enough data centers to process it, and if you don't have enough energy to run those data centers, your models are not going to produce better results than the one that does have that. So the competition between China and United States, other than it being a military competition, is even more than that, is an economic competition for winning the AI race. And that means this is a winner take all situation. This is unlike most things in trade. This is a zero sum game. In the modern global economy, most things are win-win, but in this case, it's actually win-lose. It's a zero-sum game, and whoever wins, the other side loses. And that's why we need to go for absolute domination with controlling as much rare earth minerals as we can. This is why Greenland is so important, and this is why United States, our team, needs to go with absolute domination when it comes to having as many countries with more energy on our side, with more access to energy on our side. This is why Venezuela was such an important country to get on the US side. And this is why Iran is such an important country to get on the US side before we go deeper into this war with China. This is why Iran is such a key player. Iran is important not just because of energy, not because of its own oil and gas, but also because geographically it sits at a place where you could have more dominance over other countries' oil and gas as well. Like it's not Iran is there, but Iran is right next to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, UAE. So having control over the Strait of Hormuz is very important. It's very important for Iran to be a U.S. ally country before this battle picks up. Other than that, Iran itself has a lot of rare earth minerals. Other than that, Iran is a country that connects, like it sits right where three continents are get connected, like Europe, Asia, and Africa are connected in the Middle East, and that's why Middle East will always remain important. This is why Israel is very important, because Israel, without Israel, United States wouldn't be able to do most of the things that it's doing in the Middle East. This is why, actually Israel proves how important Iran is. Even without the oil and gas, I mean, Israel doesn't have that much oil and gas, and you can see how beneficial Israel has been as an ally to United States. So imagine if Iran was a similar ally to United States, like Israel is right now. That would basically, if Iran has a government that is an ally of the United States, the gap between China and US would widen beyond imagination. I mean, the gap is already big, but with that it would be much bigger. So this is why it's really important. So liberating Iran is not just about Iran. Liberating Iran is about the right side winning and having dominance over energy, rare earth minerals, and the geographically strategic areas where we could basically hold back not just the CCP and Putin, but all their proxies like the Islamic Republic, right? And the good thing about Iran is that you don't actually have to install a pro-America regime there. You could, because the Iranian people are so pro-American, and also now more pro-Israeli than ever before as well, that all you need to do is topple the regime. It's not like an Iraq situation where you actually have to force it somehow, manufacture a pro-American regime there. If you just liberate Iran, it will automatically become pro-American because the Iranian people are pro-American. And this is why it's very important to liberate Iran soon before we move to the next phase of this Cold War. So just wanted to add that, and yeah, I'm done.
Okay, next to respond, we have Jeffrey.
All good points. Very good points, Armin. Very proud of you. So I'm going to touch on some of the statements. No, you nailed a lot of like really important stuff. So with Rebecca, she's not wrong. She's right in regarding the fact that actors, particularly the Chinese Communist Party, Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state, their rogue regime proxies, sub-state proxies, or even their historical progenitors very much engaged in something called bait and bleed or bloodletting, which means if you see your adversary is engaged in a third-party conflict, then you help your adversary's adversary and use that conflict to bleed them out. As far as for policies like policies that seek to de-link economic interdependence, that's now in reverse. And that is due to policies that are meant to de-link in pursuit of autarky. That's both the Chinese Communist Party and now us in response. And that's because everybody knows almost assuredly a high-intensity systemic war is coming, and dependency equates to vulnerability. As far as Armin's statements, he made some very good points with regards to the relative advantages and or disadvantages between autocracies and representative republics when it comes to short and long-term competition. So autocratic systems, they have advantages in short-term competition because they have tightened decision cycles, OODA loops, kill chains, and they're very much more efficient in the short term at translating Latin to hard power. They don't have to debate, and they say you're going to do X and there is no but. Representative republics have advantages in long-term competition, particularly when it comes to things like infinite games due to, a lot of the things Armin talked about, as well as and it kind of gets borne out in the intertemporal utility fund contained within Ramsey's model of endogenous growth. So when you look at historical competition, I'm going somewhere with this, between autocratic systems and representative republics, particularly, say, the United States, via our geographic advantages that we're surrounded by fish on the left and right and weak and or aligned countries in the north or south. It very much played out that way, and you saw that in the Second World War. Now, that being said, the operational impact of revolutionary technologies have changed the nature of finite and infinite games and or the advantages of autocracies and or representative republics and how they play out. You have increases in lethality, weapon lethality, and the means to deliver them means that in that competition between autocracies and representative republics, it's not so clear cut. I'm going to go to why this makes AI, what Armin said regarding AI, robotics, rare earths, and most importantly, countries like Iran, and they have to be liberated. So important. That kind of operational impact was already observed in Eisenhower's farewell address, which many people miscite as the anti-military industrial complex. In former Republican President General Eisenhower's farewell address, he talked about in no uncertain detail, because of the advent of ballistic missiles and nuclear weapons, the United States could no longer, rely on a reactive defensive industry. They had to create a defensive industry. Similarly, Jean Kirkpatrick said in regards to the competition between the Soviet Union and the United States in the Soviet-initiated Cold War, she defined it this way. The Soviets are playing chess while we're playing poker, or no, Monopoly. The question is, can they checkmate us before we bankrupt them? So where does that all leave us with what Armin said? He's not wrong in the sense that AI and robotics, particularly artificial intelligence, will be a zero-sum game, and he who dominates AI will dominate the world going forward. We also have to get it right the first time or we're all fucked. And that's going to require rare earths and energy-producing countries, which goes right back to Iran. This is why, in no insignificant manner, above and beyond the environment that positively selects for proliferation and or the pseudo-theologic motives that underwrite the Mullah regime and or its remnants motives, they're inelastic. When those kids are protesting and the kids that are engaged in liberating Iran from the Mullah regime that's illegally occupied it since 79 and denying the energy to, say, the Chinese Communist Party and or providing it to blue force like the United States-led Western Alliance, they're not just fighting to liberate Iran in their own way, in their own peace. They're also fighting to save the world. Sorry, I was so long.
That was great. Before we go to the next person, I just got a super chat by Dominic Spencer saying, "Love your work, Armin. I listen every day." Well, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right, who's next?
Okay, final response here is Sketch.
I wanted to translate some of the things that were talked about into Walmart American, just keeping it very simple. They have a top-down system where they have to force everything that they're doing, right? What does that do? They may think, we're gonna lower their missile battery. We're gonna lower how many missiles they have. What does that lead to? Because we have innovations, we have directed energy and pulse energy weapons that are being developed. Why do we have that ready so fast? Because we have the kind of market where these ideas were already being developed. And as soon as the opportunity rises, these companies are ready to go, and they're competing with each other for the best system, right? That's another thing. This we also saw play out in Ukraine, right? What happened? Because they have a more open market, I'm not sure that I understand exactly how Ukraine's market works, but I imagine that it's more open than, especially during a war where they have no options. I imagine it's more open to any idea than what Russia had going. So they were able to adapt, right? Right now, we're watching that the market adapts and find different ways to route that oil. Like right now, even with inflation, oil has not gone up as much as it should. What does this all mean? People are like sand, right? And the reason America can rise and China has a lot of problems is because people are like sand, you can hold them in the palm of your hand. But if you squeeze them in your fist, they're gonna go through your fingers. You ever take some dry sand, put it in your hand? You ever try to squeeze that into a fist? It's just gonna go between your fingers. And just like sand, people fall between the fingers of their fist. They're losing intelligent people. Intelligent people don't want to give them their ideas because they know it's going to end in nothing. They're just going to get sucked into a corrupt system that might take their idea and end up killing them, right? These people try to leave just to get out of there. And there's these closed system, these top-down system, because they close their fist on the market and tell the market, no, you're going to develop this type of missile and you're going to have this defense. They're not holding all those companies in the palm of their hand openly so that they can compete and they can rise on their own. So that's like the Walmart American take. You can't hold the people in a fist. You got to have them in the palm of your hand openly so that they rise and fall as they should. Closing your fist over the people, those people are they're gonna escape. They're gonna fall through your fingers, and you're gonna lose. The tighter you squeeze, the more you lose.
Exactly. All right, let's go to the. Before we go to the next topic, I just want to say somebody from Iran just posted in our chat. Just want to translate that for you guys. So somebody said ما به سختی وصلیم. میگم صدای ایران باشید هموطنان انرژی میدین به ما ممنون هنوز کنار ایران هستید. So he's saying we get connected to the internet very very hard. Whenever we get connected to the internet, we want to say, please be the voice of Iran. And it says, my dear compatriot, uh, like our compatriots give us energy when they're with us. Thank you so much that you're still on our side. Um, we hope that you could. So he's telling Iranian people outside of Iran that when the Iranians outside of Iran speak for the Iranians, the Iranians outside of Iran, when they speak for the Iranians inside Iran, and they're their voice, they get energy from that. And he's thanking the Iranians outside of Iran when they do that. And he says, "امیدوارم زود برگردید." So he's saying, I hope you guys could return soon to Iran. Iran جشن آزادی ما هنوز زنده ایم. It's like freedom celebration when Iran is free, and then we are still alive. Javid Shah. ما هنوز زنده ایم. We are still alive. Javid Shah. So that was a message from inside Iran that I just saw on our YouTube chat, and I just wanted to read that for you guys. Okay.